Sunday with us. We want to extend a loving welcome to you. Upon discovering Unity, many of us were surprised to learn that there was a spiritual community that thought and believed the same things that we did. It felt like coming home. Yeah. We hope your experience this morning is equally powerful and that you'll return. Next up, join Bobby and Dennis as they lead us in this morning's group song.
God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. Love is my source, love is my power, love gives me everything that I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, love gives me everything I need. Peace is my source, peace is my power, peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, peace gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need.
Thank you, Bobby and Dennis. It's so wonderful to hear from you. I'm Lisa McDonald, your prayer chaplain this Sunday. And so today we're going to be focusing on healing. So let's begin with today's daily word. And as I read, let the words I read become your meditation. Healing. The affirmation, my thoughts, words, and actions affirm divine life. Today, I give thanks for constant activity of divine healing life, especially when my body is experiencing illness. To bolster my awareness of my capacity for healing, I place my attention on my inherent wholeness. I affirm life in my thoughts, my words, and my actions as I care for my body and meet its needs. My faith assures me that illness is not the truth of me, nor is it my enduring reality. Through my actions, I am affirming wholeness as my true nature and encouraging my healing. Even when I am not facing illness, I greet each day by blessing my body, affirming my wholeness and the ongoing activity of divine life in every organ and every cell. I give thanks for the divine life by giving thanks for my healing and life and living joyously. And this is based on Luke 8th chapter, 48th verse. Said to her, daughter, your life has made you well. Go in peace. So today, I want the meditation to continue to affirm healing. And I think it's important, that we reinforce it. And today I'm wearing green because green is the color of healing and order. And so what we're going to do is just take a few minutes, and our thoughts are prayers, and we're always praying. So today we're going to focus on a drill that comes from the Handbook of Positive Prayer. And we're going to focus in terms on green light because green is a color associated with health, order, and healing. The Christian church associates it with fertility and prosperity because we always use it. And in the 12 powers, green is associated with order, and color is simply a visual image we're looking for. So in order to get started, I want you to sit with your spine straight or lie flat if we can't see you on the bed, and necessary necessary, do a relaxation exercise. I hold most of my tension in my shoulders. So a lot of times I have to do this so that I don't get stiff, and I don't do it. So I just go move my head side, up and down, up and down. But we have a whole bunch of different ways. You all have a different ways of relaxing. So I want you to just make sure that you're relaxing. And so what I want us to affirm today is, I thank you, God, for your healing power, which flows through me now as light, renewing and restoring every part of my body. Inhale deeply, imagining green light entering through the top of your head and filling your head. Your breath, imagining the green light traveling throughout your body and all the way to your fingers and toes. Exhale, imagining the radiating from every pore or changing to bluish gray, which according to persons who can see the energy field emitted by the surrounding human body is the normal color of the health aura. We're going to do it 2 more times so that you can just fill that body with wonderful healing energy. Inhale deeply, imagining white light entering through the top of your head and filling your head. Hold your breath, imagining white light traveling throughout your body and all the way to your fingers and toes. Exhale, imagining the light radiating from every pore or changing to bluish gray, which accordingly to persons who can see the energy field emitted by and surrounding human body is the normal color of the health aura. And for the last time, inhale deeply, imagining white light entering through the top of your head and filling your head. Hold your breath, imagining green light or white light traveling throughout your body and all the way to your fingers and toes. Exhale, imagining the light radiating from every pore or changing to bluish gray. And so we affirm, thank you, God, for renewing and restoring every part of my body. And just sit and reflect quietly to what health, good health and healing mean as you listen to Bobby and Dennis. And we know that when we say the prayer of protection, the light of God surrounds us. And so may the light of God continue to surround you this day. Amen.
A time for summer skies, for hummingbirds and butterflies, and tender words that harmonize with love. A time for climbing hills, for leaning out of window sills, imagining the daffodils above. A time for holding hands together, a time for rainbow-colored weather, a kind of make-believe that we've been dreaming of. As time goes drifting by, the willow bends and and so do I. But, oh my friends, whatever skies above, I've known a time for spring, a time for fall, but best of all, I've known a time for love. I've known a time for holding hands together, a time for rainbow colored weather, a time for make-believe that we've been dreaming of. As time goes passing by, the willow beats, and so do I. But oh, my friend, whatever skies above, I've known a time for spring and a time for fall, but best of all, I've known a time for love.
So I have to say, it's kind of marvelous being here, and I feel like Bobby's singing a solo to me. And I'm really excited that this will be the last week that that's the case. Starting next week, there will be people here. You will be able to join us and feel the wonderful energy that Bobby brings so beautifully. So thank you, Bobby, and please, as you feel comfortable, join us next week in the sanctuary for the first time. We're really excited about that. It's interesting, this being the last time that we're going to be sort of in an empty sanctuary, except for the team that sort of pulls us together. And thank you, Lynn. We have a guest who thought we opened today, so we have one person on the one side of the sanctuary to kind of test drive our live services. Thanks for being here, Lynn. And it just speaks kind of wonderfully to this notion that we've been moving through a really challenging time for over the last year, and it's coming to an end. I hear that Governor Pritzker may be considering moving us to stage 5, which means that we're reopening fully businesses. I understand there will be some health and safety precautions that may be permanent, but in large part, we're coming to a time when we can kind of look back over this last year. And Reverend Christina and I were talking about, and Kate Jordan was involved in the conversation too, about maybe this is a really good time for us to kind of step back a little bit and look over the last year and start to give some real thought and intention around what are the lessons that this pandemic may have taught us. You know, in Unity, our first basic principle is that there is one presence and power, and it's a power of good. And that can be a challenging truth to hold to when we're in the midst of loss and tragedy, as much as we have been over this last year. And yet, what we know to be true is that even in those situations that might seem dark or might seem lonely or might seem filled with conflict, right? Even in those situations, there are seeds, there are potentialities for bringing forth a greater good. The love of God is always available to us to express more fully as we become available to it, as we remember how it is that we can most easily access that. So Reverend Christina and I have been challenging ourselves and actually challenging you too to start thinking about how it is, what lessons we've learned, what are the blessings that can be sort of mined out of this last year. And there's a questionnaire online that we invite you to sort of take a look at. You can go to the website and access it pretty easily. I want to speak to a few of those. We've had a few responses so far. But specifically, today I'm going to be looking at the blessings or the lessons that we have learned out of conflict, because certainly the last year has demonstrated for us on a whole lot of levels. Conflict politically, conflict. I live alone, so I don't particularly have this one, but I know that the intensity of togetherness in a family has all sorts of potential for different points of view to arise. And I know that that has been an adjustment, and there may be some lessons that have learned in that regard. In the upcoming weeks, we'll be looking at not only conflict, but we'll be looking at what we have learned about grief and moving through this time of loss, what we have learned about fear. Certainly, we've had to confront some fears, to deal with fears, to be present to some pretty scary situations over the course of this last year. And also what we've learned about injustice and what is the nature of injustice and what's the truth that sort of underlies it beneath that. From our unity perspective, what is the greater truth that's willing to emerge out of all those? And so I invite you, if you haven't already, to check the website and just, it's a good spiritual practice this week. Just run through those questions and start to consider for yourself what lessons you can take out of this past year of pandemic and have that be sort of maybe some spiritual intentions that you can bring forward as you move forward in your own journey. Some strengths that you have developed as you've moved into those. As I started to think about this, and I know you're going to be very familiar with this story, but I think it's a beautiful representation from our master teacher. We look at Jesus in unity as the sort of the model for whom we want to emulate our own lives. And there is one situation in particular that is used to teach in so many realms, but as I'm looking at how we see conflict reflected in the Bible and how we overcome that conflict, this story in particular is wonderful. Reverend Christina is going to share from the Gospel of John in just a minute, but I want to give you a little bit of backup, sort of the pretext to this story that sort of sets up the level of conflict that Jesus was facing as he was in the midst of this situation. So he had been traveling around. It was shortly after he had healed someone on the Sabbath, which in Jewish Mosaic law was against the rules. And so there was a lot of conflict around Jesus. There were people who thought that he was a Messiah, that he was a prophet, and there were other people who indeed wanted him killed. And so Jesus had just been to a festival and was sort of speaking and teaching to some, but leaving that festival, there was all of this sort of mixed energy, this sort of roiling energy around him about what to do next. And in particular, Pharisees and Sadducees, sort of the officials of the Jewish church, the upholders of Jewish law, had sort of an axe to grind. And so that's sort of the context that we see emerging when this story unfolds. So I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Christina now to read from John chapter 8. I think she's reading verses 1 through 11.
Good morning. So, then each of them went home, while Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and began to teach them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and making her stand before all of them, they said to him, "Teacher, the woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now, in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. Now, what do you say?" They said this to ask him, so that they might have some charge to bring against him. Well, Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let anyone who is among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone." And once again he bent down and wrote on the ground. When they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the elders, and Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus straightened up and said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, No one, sir. And Jesus said, Neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on, do not sin again.
And Christina, by the way, I love your background. Very nice. And I don't know, at our end, there was a little bit of garbled at the beginning of the sound. Not sure what that was, but it was fine at the end. But just as sort of a recap, this is a story that most of you will be very familiar with. It's the woman caught in adultery. And what I'm wanting to look at is in the face of that conflict. You know, there was conflict going on between the Jewish law keepers, the Pharisees, who were wanting to set Jesus up, make a case against him so they could literally kill him. That was their intention. So there's that conflict going on. Then there's the conflict between the crowd who was being sort of incited to stone the woman caught in adultery. So there's lots of really intense energy surrounding Jesus in this moment. And what I would like us to pay attention to is how Jesus responded, right? Because that's what we can take from our own understanding and sort of in dealing with context. And Paul, I'm going to ask you to come up here and maybe man the camera, or just I'm going to test our camera work abilities, because I'm going to sort of try by example what we see Jesus doing. The first thing, he is in the middle of this kind of controversy, right? And the first thing Jesus does is he totally disengages from the drama that's happening, right? There's this crowd who's wanting to stone them. There's the Pharisees sort of outlining the law, and teacher, what are you going to do about it? And Jesus totally removes himself from that level of conversation. And what he does is he grounds himself. He leans down on the ground and literally starts drawing in the sand. Right? That's the first clue. How we deal with conflict. That's one of the first places that we can begin to have a different relationship with it. Yes? Remove yourself from that energy, from the intensity of that energy, from the who said what to whom and what did they do and whose fault was it, and that's all drama that's just going to perpetuate itself. So when we're involved in those kind of conflicts, the first piece we do is pull back from it, remove ourselves from that level of the interaction, and ground yourselves. My grandmother lived to be 103, and when talked to her about sort of how it is that she made it to 103 in the sort of the frame of mind and the graceful way that she did, she said, you got to get your hands in the dirt. She did it every day that she possibly could. She had her hands in the dirt. There really is something beautifully grounding about being, and whether it's like physically hands in dirt or just outside, enjoying the beautiful nature and the seasons that Bobby just sang about, right? Ground ourselves in the natural world in a way that we can sort of remove ourselves out of that intense energy that happens when we're facing conflict. That's the first piece, right? Then the next thing is, again, Jesus was not at all concerned with who did what to whom and why and where. That wasn't part of the story at all. Those are not questions that are fruitful for us if we're going to move out of that conflict energy and into a space of creating greater connection and greater peace and harmony, right? Remove yourself from those questions. Instead, what he does is he turns it around and makes it a reflective question, right? What's implicit in his coaching to let ye who has without sin cast the first stone, it sort of turns all of the outward energy back in, like, oh man, yeah, he might have a point there. It's not me. I'm not the one that's going to be able to cast the first stone. You know, and maybe I still want it to happen, and I'm looking around to see if Joe's going to go. But eventually, all of that energy sort of dissipates, and we can step out of that energy and move into a place of peace, right? The conflict is eliminated as we can remove ourselves from the drama of the constant sort of murmur around us and just be present to, okay, what's really going on for me within this situation? What is it? What's my truth in this situation? And it completely changes the perspective, as we see in the story. It's also true for the woman who was accused, right? The woman caught in adultery, Jesus doesn't go there either. Who were you with? When was it? Why'd you do it? None of that was any of his. He didn't even concern himself with a bit of the detail. He simply says to her, has anyone, who among your accusers is condemning you? And he says he doesn't either, right? Go and sin no more. It's the same thing. He turns the question around. So it's not about being a victim of this vigilante crowd. And it's about, all right, what behaviors am I going to change? How am I going to show up differently in my life moving forward? When we're facing that kind of drama and intensity and conflict, that's a really useful practice, right? To remove ourselves from the questions that keep perpetuating that swirl of either it's a victim kind of mentality, so that someone is pushing against me and fighting against me, or if we're on the other side of it and we're in the accusatory sort of pull back and move from within to for a greater capacity to be aware of the potential for greater good that's around us, right? Take ourselves out of the story, return to an awareness of the presence within us, and then move forward from a whole different level of consciousness. It's a huge blessing. So last week, I said something that generated a little bit of conflict, and so I'm going to try and practice what I preach here. Last week, as I mentioned, most of you are aware that in our Right and Perfect Home process, the building has been on the market. We have been entertaining offers. We have retained a lawyer now, an attorney, who's going to help us in those negotiations. And I suggested that as we move forward as we move toward a sale, that I saw for us, Unity on the North Shore, as setting aside a portion of that, a tithing portion of that, and giving to the greater community, right, out of the proceeds of the sale. Okay, so I want to back down a little bit. I'm removing the word tithe. I'm retracting that word. I got some coaching from a colleague who's been through this as well. And what I would like to suggest is that we begin to think about giving an intentional gift. See, the problem with tithe is it moves us, that word tithe that means 10%, and moves us into the drama. It moves us into the story. Wait a minute, are we tithing on, what are the numbers? Are we tithing on this much? Are we going to deduct that much? It becomes an intellectual thing when the intention of this gift is to come from heart and spirit. Right? So I'm backing out of the word tithe. But what I do want to begin is a conversation whereby we can begin to think about how we can live our principles of abundance, of prosperity, of harmony, and demonstrate those in a beautiful way out of the proceeds that we might get from this sale. And I also want to be very clear in articulating that the board and I had a special meeting about this once the conflict kind of arose. And this isn't me or the board wanting to dictate what's going to happen with this money. It's not our money to make that choice with. In fact, it's God's money, actually, if you think about it. And so as a community, we will create a process whereby we will be able to decide the details, right? We'll move through a process of really getting in touch with our own level of prosperity consciousness, of being mindful of what the next steps are for us as we move through this sale process or acquiring a new property or whatever the outcome ends up being. But the thing is, we have plenty of time to get there. This isn't a decision that's being made here and now. This is a topic I'm bringing up so that we can begin to hold in our hearts the kind of generous spirit and the abundant actions that we want to take that's going to attract to us the kind of next step that we know is going to be in our highest and best interest, and in the highest and best interest of the folks here in Evanston and the community and our neighbors. We want this sale to be something that blesses all, and the way that we live that out, we embody that, is to move out of sort of the chatter that happens in conflict and into a space where we can be grounded and fully present to engaging that conversation in a powerful way that comes out of an awareness of truth and not an awareness of lack or fear. Yes? That clear? So what I'd like to do in sort of closing is to share with you 5 questions. You know, reporters go for who, what, where, why, and when. That, in my mind, is what increases drama when we're in the middle of conflict. The 5 questions that I'm going to propose do what Jesus' question did, or what Jesus' coaching did to the crowd. They move it away from outer and move it into an inner reflective space so that what we're enhancing, where our attention and energy is flowing from, is a desire to expand our own consciousness, our own ability to be channels through which transformation happens. So the first of those, if you're in a situation, well, the first of those, you have to be self-aware enough to realize that I'm in conflict and I'm like fighting back, that I've got this thing going, right? You have to be aware enough of your own sort of emotional well-being so that's the first step, like realize when I'm triggered. And once you're aware of that, then the first question to go to is, what in this situation is a trigger for me? What is it about this scenario that has me so riled up? See, that's the internal question. Same kind of question that the crowd was asked when they said, without sin cast the first stone, right? What's the trigger for me? Why is this upsetting me so? Because that can lead to huge insights. Next question I would suggest is, what's mine to learn in this situation? Now that I recognize that I got a trigger going, now that there's something in my heart that is coming from a space of either fear or lack or not understanding or separation, now that I've identified that, what's in this for me to learn? What's my lesson in this? The third one, and this is a little bit more advanced, is where's the blessing? This is the one that I think has the most juice to it, but it also requires really stepping out of the drama completely. You've got to be able to come from a space of really looking at from a completely different perspective of what's the potential for good here? What is the blessing that's mine to mine? The next would be, what can I shift that will align me with that divine? What in my thinking, what in my behaving, what in my actions and my connections, what shift can I be making? This moves to the action step. What can I do to, in the Jesus example, drop the stone, right? What shift can I make in my own thinking, believing, and behaving that will bring about a greater alignment with the truth that I know? And then lastly, the fifth question I would suggest is that what is the most loving response in the situation? How is it that I can come from that space where Jesus, so present to what was really a life-threatening situation for him in some ways, and certainly for the woman caught in adultery, what is the most loving response? And it really is about sort of de-escalating all of the drama and the intensity of that drama so that we can be grounded in truth and know that there is a greater potential for love to prevail. What's the most loving response? All right, so if you're taking notes, the 5 W's that I'm suggesting are what in this situation is triggering me? What can I learn? What is the blessing? What shift can I make that aligns me with the good? And lastly, what's the most loving response in this situation? So what I'd like to do now is move into a time of meditation where we can open our hearts to whatever insight Spirit might be holding us around living into and holding conflict in a way that actually brings about greater good. We'll prepare with Bobby and Dennis.
The silence, God speaks to me. In the silence, God speaks to me. God speaks to me. God speaks to me. God speaks to me. In the silence of my heart, God speaks to me. God speaks to me. God speaks to me. In the silence of my heart.
So as we rest a bit more deeply in this beautiful energy, this energy of silence, I invite you to first focus on your breath. Just find a space of expansion. You're here present with us this morning by divine appointment. You have set an intention to be present to that most high presence and power that is the source of all good. And so in this time of silence, of quiet reflection, God speaks. Your intention to be here creates the receptivity for you to be able to hear with an open heart and an open mind. And I would invite you to remember that sometimes God speaks to us in different ways. For some, it's in a sense of a sensation. For some, it's in maybe just a message that you hear articulated. For some, it's just a flash of an idea. So I invite you as we move into this quiet time of silence to just be open to however it is that God speaks to you today. And to be assured that there is a message here for you as you simply allow it and become fully receptive to whatever way it is, whatever manner it is, whatever experience it is that Spirit would reveal this speaking to you. In the silence, listen, hear, as the divine speaks to you in a language only you can understand. Precious Spirit, as we bring this time of silent reflection to a close, we're grateful. Grateful for whatever message we have received. Grateful for whatever message is yet to be revealed. Grateful for our awareness of your presence in every situation, in all things. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
God speaks to me. God speaks to me. God speaks to me in the silence of my heart. God speaks to me. God speaks to me. God speaks to me in the silence of my heart.
Thank you, Bobby, for that amazing, heart-expanding song. And as we step into that space, we are now moving into a time when we pause to bless the generous tithes and offerings given in support of our center. We're proud to be a tithing ministry. This means we practice what we preach by joyfully, gratefully giving 10% of the undesignated gifts received to individuals and agencies that magnify their work in the world. We trust and believe the universe is abundant, seeking prosperity in ways that activate the law of attraction. In giving, we are opening ourselves and those around us to greater, fuller experience of life. So as we give thanks for the inflow, we generously receive. We also bless the outflow, knowing and affirming that as we give generously, we receive abundantly. Together, we are moving this ministry forward and outward into the world to be a powerful channel for spiritual growth and transformation. So here are 3 simple ways to give. You can text the word give to 815-827-6052. Again, you can text that to give, 815-827-6052. You can email a check to the address that you see on the screen. That's our Evanston 3434 Central Street, Evanston, Illinois. And you can give online at our website, www.unitynsshore.org. And now let's take a moment to bless our giving and receiving with our usual offertory blessing. Together, divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen.
L is for the way you look and a dream for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. Love was made for me and you.
I don't know which camera to not be in front of. So
Yeah,
after the
Dennis
song,
Luxon.
Dan is going to say, thanks, Bobby, thanks,
Love
Dennis.
is all
Here's
that
Clay.
I can give to you.
I would say just use her
Love
mic.
is just a dream for two, but two in love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. Love was made for me and you.
Oh, thank you.
Love
Good.
was made for me and you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Dennis. Amazing as always. Amazing. And now I'd like to have Clay step up for a special announcement.
Hey, oh, yeah. Gotten so used to wearing it that, just kind of feels normal, which I guess is a good thing. So I'm here to make an announcement about the Unity Worldwide Ministries conference. I will be speaking at the UWM conference. I have a couple of notes here to make sure I remember everyone's name. I'll be on a panel about reimagining community engagement, how church has changed in this last year especially, and how through this with Zoom, and we've seen with our church, we can reimagine what a church looks like, and how church is not necessarily a building, but the collection of people who all believe a similar thing, and how we reach out to the community and give back, and while still doing that. So Kathy Harwood Long and Beth Reams from the Earth Care team at Unity Worldwide Ministries are organizing it. And I will also be speaking on a panel with Sharon Ketchum from Unity Spiritual Center in Lansing, and Latia Porter from Detroit Unity Temple. She's a board member there. It's going to be on the last day of the conference. The conference is from June 14th through 17th. It'll be right at the end there, the 17th from 3:30 to 5 Central Time. If you're in Eastern, that's 4:30 to 6. I hope to see everyone there. There's still time to sign up. It does cost a bit of money, but there are so many amazing speakers there and so many great new thought ideas and just wonderful people, and I will be there as well. So if you'd like to see me speak, you can just come and sign up, and you should definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. Everybody, let's show him some love. Let's absolutely show him some love and give him support as he and the team are heading out to share this amazing message. Thanks so much, Clay. Thanks so much. So now we've got a quick reminder that we are planning to reopen the sanctuary, as Reverend Kurt said, and begin in-person meeting for the first time in many months next Sunday, June 13th. Let's have a smile on everybody's face for that one who's going to come and enjoy. Yeah. Yes, Rev Christina, absolutely. And no worries, absolutely no worries. If you're wanting to play it safe just a little bit longer, our dedicated live stream team, let's hear it for the live stream team, whoop, whoop, yep, is working on how to stream in the in-person service so you can continue to participate virtually. And I know I am so grateful for that. And speaking of the live stream team, if you're interested in helping to create our virtual experience, please contact Reverend Kurt. So reach out, you know you want to help. And now we've got 3 invitations for you, and I'll pop these in the chat after I share them with you. First, this Wednesday, our in-person midweek meditation experience on the patio continues. Reverends Kurt, Christina, and licensed teacher Candace Lucas, go Candace, will take turns leading you through a different meditative practice each Wednesday for the next 9 weeks. So check the website for details. You can also register online, but advanced registration is not required. Secondly, mark Saturday, July 31st on your calendar. We are celebrating Words of Wisdom. You'll be able to join the in-person event or via live stream, yay, as we celebrate the power of story and music to uplift and connect us. Yeah, the evening features original micro memoirs written by Unity North Shore congregants and music provided by the Quarantones, yay! Featuring our own Alyssa Foster and Jay Baglia. More details are coming out soon, but hey, save the date, put it on your calendar. And third, Reverends Christina and Kurt are asking for input in developing the Sunday lesson series for June, looking for input. The theme is spiritual lessons we learned from the pandemic. It's based on the idea that the past 15 months have challenged all of us and changed us all. They're interested in which spiritual principles, practices, or prayers have supported you through the pandemic. And they'd like us to consider sharing them. You can respond right now in the chat stream. Go ahead, everybody's chatty today. That's great. Last week, someone shared one of the Psalms that helped. Or you can click the link that's being posted. I'll get there for you. Posted in the chat stream. The link takes you to an online form with a couple of writing prompts. I always appreciate those to get you started. So come on, give us your input. Or you can find it on the homepage as well. Give it on the homepage. Lastly, please check the website, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more content to empower you in living your deepest truth. The best way to stay connected is by subscribing to our weekly e-blasts. And if you're not already receiving them, subscribe now and we'll get the link in the chat stream for you. And now we go back to the amazing Bobby and Dennis, who will lead us in the peace song, followed by Lisa with the prayer of protection.
Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
Before we go to the prayer of protection, Nancy was kind enough to post in chat earlier the link to where you can request confidential support from our prayer team online. Also, immediately following this service, you can go and there's a link to where you can have the chaplains pray with you confidentially. And this is the last week that we'll be doing that, since we'll be live and in person. So right now we should have on screen the prayer of protection. And if not, we all should know it. So let's see if it shows up. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is divine. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Dennis. Let's see. I believe we do have garden chat scheduled immediately following the service, so stay on. Is Sharon on?
I'm on.
Yay, we got a garden chat. Oh, yes, you told me you're deviating from the alphabet and going back to Pepper. Is that right?
No, I decided I would stay with the, thank you, Kurt, staying with R. I'm doing Rosemary today. Then I'm going to go back a little bit as we start to do this differently. So yes, thank you.
So if you're not aware, Garden Chat is really what we have been doing for a virtual fellowship hour. Sharon shares a recipe, and then the group who's there, they'll chat back and forth a little bit in the stream. So you're welcome to stay on and connect with us in that way. And Sharon, I think you'll probably talk about this in a minute too, but there is a plan to continue of Garden Chat in a virtual way, right?
Yes, we will start later this month on Mondays, as everybody has requested, at 5 p.m. And that'll be a Zoom connection. So it'll be the same kind of idea. You just connect via Zoom. Everyone had asked for like 5 to 5:30. I'll continue my A through Z of the year. And then I'm going to do something different for 2022. I'm thinking I'm going to do a dish representing each state in the union. So 50 states, 50 weeks, plus other territories. We'll have enough for a year. So there we are.
So fabulous. So next week, our fellowship, we won't be doing Garden Chat in service for, I think, obvious reasons. But next week, as we exit, I imagine there'll be some folks who just kind of want to hang out on the patio if you're fully vaccinated, and we'll just sort of leave that to what you feel safe and comfortable doing. But we'll be able to actually be together and fellowship. I'm very excited. So join us next week if you can, if you're comfortable. We'd love to see you.
Thank you, Reverend Kurt. I think we can kind of start the garden chat part if you'd like. So next week, as Reverend Kurt said, we're back face to face if you would like. I'm not going to do garden chat on Monday the 14th, everybody, because we have our Divine Feminine Book Club and celebration exactly at that time. So we will start garden chat still virtually on Monday. Oh. Can someone please continue the recording? Christina, can you do that?
I don't see the button. Let's see if I have access to it. I don't think. Oh, let's see. I do.
Excellent. Thank you, Christina. So we will start Monday, the 21st at 5 o'clock for virtual, and we'll carry on. And I'm going to do saffron. I'm going to talk about saffron, the most expensive spice in the world, actually, for some very good reasons, and has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. Today, though, we're going to talk about something that's very inexpensive, and it is rosemary. What is rosemary? It's actually part of a shrub. This is dried from the store. You can use that. That's great. But fresh actually tastes so much better. You can see if you rub it between your fingers and smell it, it's part of the evergreen family. It's actually an evergreen shrub. And one little plant, because it's perennial, will last you for years. You can keep it inside during the winter months, outside during the summer months, and just keep clipping it and cooking from it. Today, we've got a really easy recipe with roasted vegetables, potatoes specifically. Yet after the season, you can just cut this and then you can leave it on your counter and dry it. And then you can put it in your freezer and take it that way. It's a little bit different from this very ground up looking rosemary. This will give you much more pungent flavor. And it really is a lovely, almost perfumed evergreen kind of scent. As you can tell, I'm smelling it myself. These potatoes are really simple to do. I think the key is mix your potatoes up. So these are little new potatoes, and it's a variety of colors. So I've got kind of an orangish color, or kind of a blonde, white, a dark purple, blackish kind of color. What you're going to do is just put a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, a bit of rosemary into a 400-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes until they become, if you can see, brown around the edge and golden. Mix it up maybe halfway through or so you make sure that your single layer of potatoes roasts evenly. Add a little bit more olive oil, a little bit more of your rosemary, and a bit of lemon juice, and a little lemon rind. And you've got a really fresh, warm salad, or you can put it in the fridge and then have it the next day as a cold salad. I think the other key to this is something that our church member Pam had talked about before, and that is unfiltered olive oil. See how this is kind of thick, viscous, a little bit green. This is a Trader Joe's product. It's still there, $6.99 for the bottle. You can tell, because I don't have a lot in here, I've been using it a lot. And it just adds a little more of a bitter kind of taste to your olive oil, a little different coloration as well. I'm really enjoying it for something like this, which is such a simple dish. A nice heavy olive oil just adds to the flavor. So as I said, does a little squeeze of lemon juice and a bit of the zest of the lemon on top. So that's it for rosemary infused potato salad. In 2 weeks' time, we'll talk about saffron. And if you have any questions about what I just showed you, please ask away as well.
Well, I have a comment. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Yes, Yvonne, thanks.
I hear that I don't know what they are, but I hear that rosemary also has a lot of health benefits.
Yes, it does, actually. People do it, as so many herbs that I've described this last week, to aid in digestion, right? To kind of spike taste buds and such. That's what a lot of herbs do. Lower blood pressure. It's also something that's very decorative. If you've gone to stores like a Trader Joe's or decorative plant stores and such during Christmas, you'll see, and this is very much the Italian tradition, a topiary tree of rosemary. And you can make it like a mini Christmas tree and then eat off of it. Keep it in your house, and man, you come into your house for the holidays and it doesn't smell like pine. It smells like Italian cooking. It smells like rosemary. So that's another way to have a nice little tree, keep it for the year, or dry it afterwards, clip it, put it in the freezer, and eat from it for the year. So yeah, it's a lovely decorative plant as well as it's got health benefits. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I always find when I ask you what seems like some off the wall question, you always got a whole trail of different things to say.
Well, I do like researching this before I present to you. And as you know, I really do walk this walk, kind of missing not doing the demonstration plus food sharing after church, and that's going to take a little bit of time. So as I said, we'll just continue the virtual A through Z through the rest of the year, and let's see how everybody feels, right? What that's all about.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Yvonne.
Sharon, I have to say, because of our discussions of herbs, I really don't cook. I bought some herbs and I added them to my flower containers. So I have flowers and herbs in the same container.
Lovely.
I've got lavender. I have a rosemary, but I also have a hot and spicy oregano that I got at Meinke, which is out on Tui. Kind of Tui.
Hot and spicy oregano. That sounds really interesting.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's so much fun when I'm watering the plants, even though I still don't cook much. It's like I can just, pinch the leaves like, oh my God, this smells so good.
Yes, I think that's a really good point, that perfume doesn't have to be just something we put on our wrist, although people use lavender, right, as an oil. That, people in other cultures actually rub lemon thyme on their wrists. They rub rosemary, right? It's a funny thing. I lived in Saudi Arabia. People would take herbs and they'd actually put it in their noses, like literally keep it there, and flowers and such. And that was just a traditional Bedouin people to smell things when they were otherwise in a desert environment where there's not a lot of scent, right? So, I'd see people with little like rosebuds in their nose, and I thought, what? But it's for the scent, right? So, rose oil is a lovely perfume, but it doesn't have to be only flowers. Herbs can like flavor you, right? Can perfume you.
Yeah.
And that's the basic principle of essential oils.
It is. That's right.
Yeah, like rosemary.
And then you get back to your health benefits, right?
That's exactly right. And just like you said, rosemary in cooking, digestion, putting it on the skin, with a carrier, is healthy for digestion that way.
That's a good point, Yvonne. The only essential oil that doesn't have a carrier, probably some of you know this, is lavender. Lavender you can just put neat on your skin and just buy it from like a Whole Foods or a health food store. So without almond oil or other oils, or whatever. Just the plain lavender. I do it often, just related to yoga stuff and everything, just to kind of perk things up on my own body.
That's right. So now you're saying they do that worldwide and even stick it up their noses.
I know. It's so interesting, right? Yeah.
I have a question. I had no idea that rosemary was a perennial. So I planted a lot of herbs last year for the first time, and I brought them indoors, and none of them really did well, with the exception of oregano, which is flourishing, but they all kind of died. So I don't know if you have any tips. I'm going to try to replant this year, but
I do actually. I'm kind of someone who loves plants too much a little, by like watering them too much. And it could be that you had too much moisture in the roots. Rosemary is a good one for that, where if you put too much water on it, it gets root rot and then it will not come up. All right. So depending on how much snow, and we had a really heavy snow this year, which was great for things like lilacs and irises and such, because the frost and then the frosting afterwards of the water really got to the roots at the right time. But if your herbs got too much water, they won't come up because they've kind of rotted. So I wait until my herbs are dry to the touch for a couple days and then water them again. So like a good, nice drink, but then let them dry out a little. Don't just keep watering it. I have the same problem with orchids. I keep giving them too much water and then they die of root rot. So just don't love them too much. As my husband says, ignore them. Just ignore them for a while.
how about sun-wise? Any thoughts on that?
Most herbs like a good bit of full sun. Yes. So things that we've talked about already, and we'll talk about: oregano likes full sun, parsley, rosemary, thyme we're going to talk about soon. All of those are good full sun. Balcony, or on the edges, the ledges of your house, things like that, inside or outside.
Thank you.
Sharon, I have to say that I'm just like you. I love my plants too much. I have a long history of yeah.
I just got to be kind of doing other things. That's why I said I kind of like look at them. I go, all right, grow today. That's fine. I'm not going to water you. I'll talk to you, but I'm not going to water you.
Yes, I'm getting better after many, many years. Yes.
I know you like cats, Laura, and I have a cat as well. You can't do that with cats. I have to give fresh water every day and multiple bowls. It is a whole different game, right? With animals versus plants.
Yeah, they have their own psychology, for better or for worse. So what did we think about the service today? Did we have any parts of the service that we could really relate to in terms of experiences of conflict? And did we learn, reflecting on that, did we come away with a little insight about maybe what the steps are that we could take now just to be in a better place about it, or how to move forward?
Well, I think for me, I made an analogy with the book that we're reading in our Divine Feminine Book Club right now, and some of you are on in that club. And it is a woman of no importance about the Second World War, a woman who became kind of an unwitting spy and helped to turn things around. And I'm in the part of the book where the war is almost over. And I found that from what Kurt said today, it's like COVID's almost over. And in the book, she talks about kind of re-emerging, and the spy is able to kind of take care of herself, just not protect all these other people that she's been hiding throughout the war and such. And in a way, COVID's been a bit of a war situation. Like, we've all lost, we've all grieved. And so I looked at what Kurt said about what is triggering me, what can I do, what can I be more mindful about, as related to this kind of emerging. I kept thinking, like, where I'm coming out of a cave, I'm coming out of a war situation. And I think one thing in that way, which I've not responded to church, but I will do today, is respecting each person's way of loss. Like, we've all lost, everybody, right? Maybe it's loss of being with other people, certainly for most of us, loss of even privacy of being with other people, death and such, but it's all loss. It's just however we each deal with loss is how we do it. And there's no right or wrong. So I've learned just to respect each person's way of dealing with grief, whatever that is. Maybe a person is still grieving. Maybe that person is not going to grieve for another 5 years. Well, okay, that's his or her journey. And not to judge and not to say, well, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
It has no bearing. It's what you feel. It's how you grieve. So yes, I thought what Kurt said was very helpful.
Mm-hmm. I found it to be a little interesting, since I'm in Ohio and we're on a different time schedule.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. See, so our governor, who had been massively conservative, leaped out there and said, yeah, doors open. Yay. Late
Oh, he just really flipped it, right?
Yeah, which kind of caught people by surprise, given, how conservative. He was the first one to close schools, and he did all kind of stuff.
Wow. So
and our church is, the Renaissance Unity of Northeastern Ohio is the Unity Church here. And it's been open now since May 16th, like 2 weeks. So it's sort of like watching the evolution that Ohio went through, and getting ready to unfold, in Illinois, like everybody's saying, and the governor may, and our governor already has, so, and like our streets people are still very conservative. They're still wearing masks. He has decided, one of his edicts, everything's like open and fine, except medical, like hospitals and doctors' offices. And I'm kind of glad about that, since that's where I work. I'm glad they're, yeah. So I'm glad that level of conservative, and also watching the pace at which people are comfortable. That's interesting to observe. You go in some places where it's okay to not wear a mask or outdoors, and there's still people wearing masks, and there's still people that won't come, and there's still curbside groceries. People are proceeding at their own pace, sort of like what you were describing about grief, because we've had a year to kind of get all this to be a habit, and there's still levels of fear and concern, and people at different, like maybe they can't be vaccinated because of some condition, or the kids haven't been vaccinated and they're nervous about that. So it's kind of an evolution that we're going through, a transition in the fullest sense of the word.
And we found out last week through a virtual town hall at my employer that, everyone's been working remotely since the pandemic started. That starting August 2nd, everyone is going to be expected back in the office, whether you've gotten the vaccinations or not.
What? Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I immediately saw conflict, because since working remotely, even before this, I've been able to work remotely periodically and sometimes for like a couple months at a time. But I have to tell you, it's been a long time since I've felt as peaceful as I've felt during this time of working remotely. And I feel like I can be myself. I can express my gratitude more just throughout the day. I'm living alone. I don't have, okay, get this, people, there are like 5 faces I can see around me within 5 feet of me in my tiny cube. So as a person also with 2 chronic illnesses, I immediately saw conflict. And so I emailed my boss, and then she said, well, I'm not opposed, but you have to go to HR, because if you're talking about a health reason for not returning to working in the office, all she cared about is that I could sometimes show up for meetings, and that would be fine. But now you've got to prove, you give people access to medical information. I'm just like, okay, I'm just happier and healthier, and I have not been this happy and healthy and peaceful. I don't remember when.
That, Laura, I believe is what Kurt was saying. What is your truth? You just expressed to all of us, that is your truth. I'm happier and healthier where I am right now in this time and place. I don't want to make that change. That's your truth. Right. So I think he's then inviting you through that message to look at what's the blessing in this, that maybe the blessing is not go back to work in that way. The blessing is that you have a choice, right? That you can go to HR, that you can seek your truth. And yes, true, it might be this kind of hassle, right, to have to explain things. And yet, if your truth remains the same, I'm happy and healthy the way I am, then you will achieve that. You'll talk to HR. You'll do what you need to do to get back to this lovely equilibrium that you enjoy.
Right, and it's just so evident to me. And I said to someone I work with very closely on a project, a very important project, because he asked me if I was going to be returning to the office. I said, no, I'm healthier at home. And he said, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's not my boss, so he can't just say that. And I have done what my boss told me to do. I've contacted HR. HR told me, well, here are some other steps you need to take. So I've gone through that, but I just have to say that my kind of mental takeaway here also is, don't create conflict where there does not need to be conflict.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yep.
Because your immediate feeling was conflict, I'm staying at home. I do not want to be back in the office where people don't even say hi to me. I don't get to see the sunshine. There's a lot of life stuff. Okay, well, so maybe if you follow these steps, it'll all work out fine. Don't expect conflict when that only increases the chances of it happening. So
yeah, turn it around. How can you turn it around?
Yeah. So, and then I thought, I kind of turned it over to God too. I said, God, this is really the best thing for me. I feel closer to God since I've been able to work from home. I feel like I feel God more. And so it's also a chance for me to kind of place trust in God at the same time doing what I'm being told by HR to do. It's kind of a hard time for me.
Yeah, I can say that.
But it is always important to stay in a positive frame of mind, make use of the resources that are available to you, whatever the diversity of they may be.
And I think from what you're saying, that's what UNS is. That's one of those resources, right?
Yeah, it is.
Use that along with other things, right?
Yeah. So, Go ahead, Yvonne.
Oh, you could tell I was getting ready to speak. I can't see anybody, and there's no way I can get into the gallery. So I'm seeing me in.
Oh, Yvonne, I can see the gallery. Can other people see as well? Yeah.
No. I'm just saying I can't use my computer, and I don't get how to do it on this iPad. But anyway, so I, I might be interfering, but there's something I wanted to say about it that I've learned in the past few weeks, because as you probably could tell, I'm very much on the conservative side. I still got my masks. In fact, I ordered some new ones. That's kind of where I'm at. Even though I've been going to work every day and I work with the public, and I got face shields and I got gloves and all that stuff, and that will continue. But I have lots of people, because I'm a health coach, asking me, well, what should I do? I want to see my grandchildren, and, I want to do this. But I've got a husband who's, got a chronic condition, and I don't want to risk things. And I found myself, even though we don't give advice, I, found myself giving advice. Will you be sure to do this, and check with your daughter about how she feels about you coming, and so forth, and consider why you want to, are you being like a little, can you go a little longer not seeing the kids and that kind of thing. And then I decided to go to Dr. Google, like, what should we be doing if we're vaccinated and that kind of thing. And I learned a syllable of something that was helpful, that I think people aren't sharing as much, and they should, which is, if there's something about, and I can't articulate this perfectly, but the reading I did indicated that what you need to, you kind of need to get your body charging around being in virus land. It's sort of like if you're too overprotective with your kids and always using antibacterial soap, their body doesn't build up the reserves to be able to fight off various things. So that's something else to consider, that, not cloistering yourself so much if you're vaccinated and protected, that your body doesn't get to build up the fight to deal with the environment. And I think that when I say people aren't sharing enough about that, I think that's what's behind this. Okay, everybody go back to work. I mean, they're really still trying to build up this little bit of herd immunity over time. And that's not going to happen. So I've had to back off in my mind a little bit about being too, my too conservative self. Mm-hmm. And every day I've been thinking, well, I'm still out in the public. I'm still meeting the public. Some people aren't going to be vaccinated, that they're going to say they don't have a fever and all that stuff, but they're going to be sick. And because I'm now protected against getting too sick from it, I'm not protected against not sharing the virus and all that stuff. We're probably doing that. But there's more to this that's going to evolve as we get more understanding. That's all I wanted to add. I certainly wouldn't change. Was that Laura that was speaking before? I couldn't see. Okay. I wouldn't change a thought that you have about what you want to do, because you know that you are healthier and feel better. Mm-hmm. And I would ask everybody to keep learning, about what this is all about as it evolves, because we are in transition.
Yeah.
Sharon, I think you had said this maybe during a midweek meditation, or maybe it was another time where we were in a smaller Zoom gathering, that it really is basically what Yvonne said, is that we have to try it out in small
Oh, I talked about baby steps, which was actually what
with your
Curtis said.
daughter. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You have to just try it in baby steps. And I'm fine with going out. A good friend of mine just had a birthday party last night and everyone was fully vaccinated. And there are about 8 of us. She sent an email saying, okay, we're all fully vaccinated. I'm not expecting anyone to wear a mask, but if you feel like you want to wear one when you're here, that's fine. So it's, you know, I enjoy sort of this closer return to normal, but also as you said before, Sharon, we just have to respect and you're saying the same thing, Yvonne. We have to respect that everyone's at a different place.
Yep. And know that we each have choice as well. If you feel unsafe, uncomfortable, don't go.
Yeah, right.
I'll get invited to a bridal shower next Saturday, 6 months after the wedding couple got married with only 8 other people. So the bridal shower is coming after the wedding. And I'm like, fine, that's cool. And it's at a club and we have to show our vaccination card.
Okay.
And wear a mask. So that's their rules. And if I want to play by those rules, then I just don't go. I am going to do it. And I do have my card laminated and like, I'm ready. And I will wear a mask. And as I said, so that's the rule of that house, so to speak, even though it's a club, it's not a person's house. So fine, we just abide by that. And then we make our own decisions. Right.
And I like in a way that this experience has empowered us to make our own decisions. It's forced us to make our own decisions and
live in our own truth. And I think the other element that's become really important to me in this last year personally is, and respect other people, like just that we have to be responsible for other people. When I've had a few friends who don't want to get vaccinated, I said, I don't want to make you sick. I don't want you to make somebody else sick. We're all responsible for each other. Now, there were some misgivings too about a vaccine developed so quickly and such. I got that, right? And then I empowered myself, as Yvonne said. I read more. I tried to understand the best I could and thought on behalf of my family and my friends and my community, I need to do this to be responsible for other people, not just me as a human being.
Right.
Right. So that's another takeaway of just feeling the responsibility for other people, that we're all humans. Right.
And it kind of goes back to the sermon today too about conflict. And what I said myself about creating conflict is that the beginning is like everyone should be wearing a mask. And when you'd see people who weren't, you'd be judgmental. It was easy.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Mental, judgmental. Yep.
Oh my gosh, it was hard. It was harder to love people in that moment. It was. But now that we've gotten through this, we're not completely done, but I feel that I've become much more open about people's choices and not judging them. And it's kind of come in a different way to me that everyone's life experience is different. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing or why they're not doing what they maybe should be doing. And in the end, it's just trying to find peace in yourself, right? That's the main thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
I work in a bunch of different retirement communities around Chicago, and each one of them is in a different place in terms of the COVID rules and the vaccines and all that stuff.
Oh gosh, Ruth, you got a list, right, of how you can do things in each place.
And it changes from week to week. So I recently started with a new client just to pick up her mail at a local place.
Okay.
And the next week when I went back, it was like, you can't enter because we have an active case. I'm like, okay, but I'm supposed to get her mail. Can someone else get her mail and bring it up to me? Because if you're not going to allow me in, there's just going to be even more mail in 2 weeks. And so they agreed to that, but I had to stand inside and wait for them. Now I was masked and I've been vaccinated, but it's still kind of freaky. So
yeah,
like, oh, active case, huh? Thanks.
Yeah, I feel like you're in an unsafe environment. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I know I need to wear a mask every time I go into one of these places, and that's not going to change because there's different rules for conjugate living situations. And the rule is you mask and you stay distance or you're outside. But so when I'm somewhere else, like in church, am I still, if we're not needing to wear a mask there, am I still wearing a mask? Probably yes. So
It's so interesting you said that, Ruth, because that was kind of the empty hole to me with Kurt even saying we're going to go back to face if you so choose. No one has said, do we wear masks or not? Right. But I am in your camp. I will wear a mask just to make sure, because I don't know that everybody's going to be vaccinated. I'm going to be inside of a big space. We all know Unity is a big space, but it's still a space for an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'll know that I do weddings as a side gig. Well, I'm not doing weddings because inside because of that, like, because people aren't there for 10 minutes. They're there for an hour, and therefore you limit exposure with numbers of people. So yeah, I definitely will wear a mask, Ruth. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were talking about, I'm on the reentry team for UNS, and when we were talking about it and having the date of June 13th, the rules as now are still masked and distanced within the sanctuary, and you're only in for an hour, and you'll be escorted in and escorted out, no mingling, etc., until you get outside, and one person at a time in each of the restrooms. So unless
this week.
unless the rules for statewide totally change between now and Sunday, that's what we're going to be doing. So
yeah, I keep thinking of that better safe than sorry phrase, right? That just, as Yvonne said, be a little bit more conservative, protect more people, do the best we can that way.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to go, ladies, but I want to thank each of you for just the conversation today.
That's what Garden Chat is. Absolutely. About whatever you want. The rest of the part gets us started. That's all. And gets us cooking with herbs, Laura. There you go.
That's right.
I know, and I even have a stove.
Got some ideas now. Yeah. All righty, everybody.
Okay, love you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye for now.